Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story titled, Finding Out the Truth About My Wife. And a big shout out to Chris for sending me this story. And guys, this tragic story, where a guy does handle this like a boss, it's all about a guy who I'm guessing is probably late 20s, maybe around 30. Been married for 5 to 7 years, and found out recently during the holidays around Christmas time, the worst time to find out bad news, that his wife, who is pregnant. But here's the deal, he got a vasectomy. And finds out way more than that it certainly is not his child. And he also has a 3 or 4 year old daughter, and guess what's going on with her? Not his kid. And this guy, although destroyed, handles this situation like a boss. And the wife, when justice is starting to be served, she definitely gets it. And this video is one of 2 parts, and definitely will be something that I think will be continue on with many parts. And it goes to show you guys, you don't just look for red flags. You have to dig for red flags nowadays. You always have to pay attention, and you got to really get to know your girl before you get involved with her and get serious, especially marriage. This guy did not know her very long before he got married to her, clearly didn't do his due diligence, and while he did mistakes, no guy deserves this type of crap. And if anything like this ever happens, you have to be prepared to walk. You can't stay with someone like this. Otherwise, they're just going to keep doing it and doing it. But that'll be a very good one. Very important lesson to the story. And by sharing this story, hopefully this guy will get a lot of support and we'll get through this. Because a lot of guys, they share their stories either to me personally through SSM, or they put it on these websites like Reddit to get some support, some good ideas, some advice, and to cope. And it really is helpful. He says, we spent 2 years together in college and got married in the fall after we graduated. Smack! Right away I'm smacking him. Way too young. Then spent 2 years exploring our relationship and finally got settled down and was ready to raise a family. Way too young. She got off birth control and her libido took off, but it took 3 years for us to get pregnant, but we got a beautiful girl finally. Smack! We got pregnant. Oh, no. She got pregnant. She held that baby, carried that baby, morning sickness. No, you did not. Enough of this political correct nonsense. Anyway, after a couple of months, my wife got back on birth control and had a hard time with it. Her doctor switched her medication several times, but she had bad side effects with each one. We talked about it and were unsure if we wanted another child, and since it was easier for me to get a vasectomy, reversed later, if we decided to have more children, I had the operation. Okay, you hear right here. He had the vasectomy. Okay, and she's off the birth control. That was 3 years ago, and after coming off birth control, my wife has felt better, and the SCX has been worry-free since, and we can no longer get pregnant. Again, I don't hear this we can get pregnant nonsense. This is ridiculous. We actually have SCX more now than we were in college. Then 3 weeks ago, my wife was late for her period, which isn't that unusual for her. Then I noticed her breasts were a little tender, and she started what seemed like signs of motion sickness. Huh. Well, how's that possible? This dude got a vasectomy. Must be a miracle then. Now I know there have been cases of nature reversing vasectomies, so I went to the doctor and had my sperm count checked, and the verdict was I'm still sterile, but I didn't tell my wife. Well, that's a major kick in the stomach. This poor guy. My wife finally went to her doctor and confirmed she was pregnant, and so she had me go to the doctor to get tested. Can you imagine what this guy's going through right now? I didn't go right away. Basically, I was literally sick from the stress of the situation. Yeah, nobody can blame you, dude. I had all sorts of sick scenarios going through my head. In the end, I got retested. I took my daughter in and had a DNA test on her done. I got both test results back today and got violently ill after reading them. Yes, I am sterile, and no, my daughter isn't mine. Oh my God. This poor guy. Not to mention, this is like right around now, the holidays, when, you like to be happy with things like that, your family and all that. Find the wife's pregnant, and guess what? You're sterile, so she's obviously cheating on you. And you find out your daughter, who I'm sure this guy loves more than anything in this world, isn't his. And the wife's been lying this whole time. I mean, you can see why people get so worn down that all they want to do is just think about offing themselves. This is terrible. But don't worry, guys. Our guy will hold strong and justice will come for her. When my wife got home, I showed her my test and she denied any wrongdoing, shocker, saying that there was a problem with the test. And I showed her the test from last week and she broke down crying. Hobag Handbook Chapter 2. I finally got it out of her who she had slept with and that it only happened once and the condom must have failed. Yeah, sure, it happened just one time. Okay, yeah, I believe that because you've been so honest up until this point. I made her tell me this story 3 different times, and each time I asked her if that was the whole truth and if there was anything else that she needed to tell me because another lie would mean we were done forever. She said that was the only time and she had never done anything like that before. Oh yeah, then how come the daughter is not mine? See, he's not telling her that. He's telling her about the test, about him being sterile. He's not mentioning about the daughter. At least not yet. Terrible. I told her how much this had hurt me and asked how she could do this to our family and if it was worth it. I asked her if she wanted a divorce and she pleaded with me to forgive her and put this behind us. Well, that's easy for her to say because she wasn't the one betrayed. This is the guy betrayed, not to mention he knows the daughter isn't his. He isn't just laying it on yet. I said I couldn't raise someone else, says here. I said I couldn't raise someone else's child and asked her if she was willing to terminate the pregnancy in order to stay together. She cried the rest of the night, but when we went to bed, she said she would do whatever it took to save our marriage. I never brought up the DNA test. I will contact a lawyer next week to see what my options are about it and if I had to pay child support on our first child. If she has to come clean about if she had come clean about the father of our first child, I could have swallowed my pride and tried to work to forgive her, but she thought she was in the clear and didn't need to confess to anything else. No telling what I'll never know. Dude, she is Pandora's box, and I can't begin to imagine how many skeletons are in her closet. There's so many skeletons and ghouls and zombies in her closet. They're all probably doing the fucking Thriller dance, you know, that dance they do. You know what I'm talking about? Look up the Thriller dance on YouTube when you're done this video. Shocker, she's not saying anything. Denying it. Nothing else happened. Just this one time, blah, 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 blah. It's over. He cannot be with someone like this. And now he has to decide about his child. Yeah, but this child he thought was his isn't his. And we all know who's really going to suffer in this whole situation. The little girl. Now I want to do an update with his lawyer. He says, my lawyer is awesome. She, I always get a female attorney, guys, because they know women. She had me bring in a bunch of paperwork, bank statements, and my medical and DNA results, and had me tell her my story. Her assistant sat in with us and took notes while my lawyer went through my documents, and after I finished, she asked a few questions and spelled out my options. I live in an at-fault divorce state, which is good and bad. Good as in it gives us leverage. Bad as it takes longer and much more expensive. In the case of my first child, if my wife agrees to sign the papers, my liability for child support is an easy fix. If she doesn't agree, then a court-ordered DNA test and a judgment from the court can remove me without my wife's consent. Either way, I will most likely not have to pay child support. One way is just more expensive than the other. So, although this is what he's being told by his attorney, all it takes is one judge listening to the wife's tears, and next thing you know, he's paying child support anyway. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. But then boils back down to the fact that this child, the girl, 3 or 4 years old, is who he believed was his daughter all this time. And she doesn't deserve, she's the one that's truly getting hurt in the situation. It's not her fault. And is going to be heartbroken if he leaves. But on the other hand, you can't blame him. He shouldn't have to pay for a kid that's not his. He shouldn't have to raise some other dude's child. He might change his mind later on, but you can imagine the emotions are raw as hell. You know, but at the end of the day, it's his life and he'll do what he has to do. But I just feel bad for that kid. And that kid will be raised by that asshole wife of his. Since my wife has a good job and earns close to what I do, she doesn't think the judge will award her alimony. Well, thank the Lord for that. And all that plus dividing up property and other things can be negotiated before a judge gets involved. The bad news was due to the holidays, they couldn't have the papers ready before Christmas, but definitely would before the end of the year. She advised me to say nothing until she gets served. She gave me a list of things to do before and after Christmas before they serve my wife. Oh, that's going to be some fireworks when she gets served. One thing they did point out was since we were actively trying to have a baby, there was a possibility that my wife didn't know that the child wasn't mine. My wife has an appointment with her OB tomorrow. So, now on to part 2 with the fireworks going off when he has his wife served. And you can only imagine the things she says. It says, so, I met my sister at my house and we started moving my stuff to her house while the divorce goes through, or at least until my soon-to-be ex-wife leaves and I get possession of the house. You're damn right you should get possession of the house. We took 4 carloads to her house and came back for the rest. My sister felt it important for her to be there for support and as a witness. See, he has a female attorney because a female attorney knows other women's BS, and his sister's advising him, better have a witness there because she knows about women's BS. I also moved the nanny cam into the living room so it could record everything in the cloud. At about 10:45 in the morning, I got a text from the lawyer saying that she had been served. I sent an email saying that I am at the house when she's ready to talk. A couple of minutes later, I got a text from my wife saying, why? Blah, 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 blah. So I resent the first text and waited for her to come home. She sent several texts and voicemails. They don't mention anything about cheating, just how she thought that we were working this out and how she thought we would sit down and have a conversation before proceeding with a divorce. Well, a-hole, you thought wrong. You've underestimated me for the last time. Playing the family card and how this will devastate the child and our families. How she feels betrayed. That was a good one. She's the cheater. She's the liar. Just got fucking pregnant by some other dude and is carrying his child. And this guy finds out that his daughter isn't his. And she's the one feeling like, that she's betrayed. Unbelievable. Well, this is believable. She was sharing her location and it took her 20 minutes before she left work. She then suddenly stopped at a nearby Walgreens for a few minutes. The purpose of the stop at Walgreens became clear as the police car pulled in behind her in the driveway. Oh, for goodness sake. Good thing you listened to your sister and brought your sister as a witness and you had the nanny cam watching things. According to the police officers, she got the police there because she said she was afraid and that we had weapons in the house. Weapons as in G-U-N-S, and yes, I'm spelling this out just in case because you all know YouTube psycho. I showed the officers my empty safe and said that I had removed them to another secure location. We went back to the living room and I showed my wife the paternity test that I had done and showed her daughter was not mine. Her response was denial and disbelief, which appeared genuine. She broke down and cried for about 10 minutes or so. I told her this was the final straw and why I wanted the divorce. At about that time, the police officers reminded me to keep it civil and made their exit after I told them I was leaving soon to stay at my sister's house. I'd be like, officers, you're speaking, you're barking up the wrong tree. Talk to her about keeping it civil. When you hear the neighbors complain that dishes are being thrown and screaming and yelling, that ain't gonna be me. So she's caught and then bawling and crying and all that. When I asked who the child's father was, she claimed she didn't know. Really, were there that many dudes that she doesn't know? Good God, the neighborhood cat that goes and hooks up with many, many male kitties and gets pregnant probably is a good idea, but it's more than that probably for her. I asked if there were that many guys she was sleeping with or she just didn't know his name. I asked how many times did she cheat on me between pregnancies, to which she says it was just the 2 of them. Well, then you do know, lady. Liar, liar, pants on. Her nose is growing, just like Pinocchio. I reminded her I also told her that I couldn't and would not raise someone else's child, and that she had better figure out who the real father is because I wasn't paying child support for someone else's baby. Again, this is a whole heartbreaking mess, and you can't blame the guy. Yeah, somebody else should pay for that, but still, I do think this guy might change his mind, at least with regards to the relationship with the girl. once he cools off. A lot of stories I've covered, these guys eventually calm down, realize this isn't the kid's fault, and don't want the kid to suffer, that type of thing. But again, regardless of the decision, you can't blame this guy. She wanted to know what we were going to tell our daughter, and I said that it was up to her because this was her mess, and I wasn't taking the blame or cleaning up for her. I drafted a couple of emails last week, one for our friends and family with copies of all the test results and reasons why I was asking for the divorce. The other email was for my wife with copies of the same tests along with what I knew and things I had told her previously. Very smart, bro. Control the narrative because she's going to tell everybody else a totally different story and make you out to be the freaking villain here. I had to run it through my lawyer and make a couple edits before she signed off on it. I sent copies to all our friends and relatives when she pulled into the driveway this afternoon. Most of the feedback has been one-sided and very colorful. In the end, I told her that if she'd been truthful, we might have been able to work things out. I actually kind of believe him on that. But I couldn't trust a lying serial cheater. And I told her if she had gotten her tubes tied instead of getting a vasectomy, she might have gotten away with it. I told her she needed to get a lawyer so we could move forward and start to heal. And that is the end of where this is right now. And this guy, I really feel bad for this guy. This poor bastard. Like I said, I think he's in his late 20s, maybe early 30s at the latest. You know, it's just he's living life and this is what he discovers. You know, it's just, and this happens just too much. Which is why I do all these channels and share these stories just to help guys be aware this happens. And be careful. Be involved with who you trust, who you let yourself fall in love with and all that. So I'm going to keep close attention to see if there's going to be updates here. And I bet there will be, and I wish this guy luck. Really, I do. But before I wrap this thing up, I'm going to read some comments here. One guy says here, drama is not over. Once the shock wears off, she will regroup and come after you. Listen to your lawyer, lean on family, and be careful of so-called friends wanting to help you. Yeah, regardless of this is not his fault, she's going to turn some people against him and family. The daggers will come out. Good move on seizing the narrative and getting the truth out. Don't be surprised if she still has supporters out there. It sounds like you prepared well, but don't let your guard down. Good luck. Hopefully the worst days are behind you. Don't be too proud to get help from a professional. This guy's smart enough to ask for help and seek professional help. But this guy also, I think, honestly could probably use some serious time to talking to people that he can truly trust. Even go so far as a therapist, that will be helpful. Not everybody has to go to a therapist, but if it can help him, it can help him. He needs some gym time. He needs to get out and move because when you're feeling down and sad and hopeless, the worst thing you can do is stay alone and just dwell on the sadness and the misery and everything. It's a black hole. You got to get out of the house. You got to be in the sun. You got to move, exercise, do anything. Even though the last thing you want to do is get out of the house and walk and be in the sun and smile and be with anybody. He's got to do it. Another guy says here, thank you for respecting yourself. Your ex-wife is one of the most worst human beings, making you believe you're the dad and just taking it away that easy. Don't believe anything she says. She was ready to let you raise someone else's kid forever. You handle it perfectly. Go full no contact and don't be a nice guy. She did two worst betrayals to you. Good thing you handled family and friends. Every step you did is what I advise everyone else in this sub to do. Good luck. And the last one, this guy says, wow, what a series of misevents. Your wayward spouse is a horrible person. I'm so glad that you have a strong character and are a man of principle and know how to handle tough situations the right way. Instead of being like 80% of the men in this Reddit, you sucked it up and you got the job done. Plenty of time later to mourn the loss all the way around. Yes, he has to be tough and strong now, but eventually he's going to have to mourn and go through the grieving process. And everybody has been go through some sort of pain or loss. That's the best way to describe it. Loss. Has to properly grieve before they can move on, and it is no shame. Just don't ever let the person, usually the gal, who hurt you see you cry. You, sir, are a real hero for taking this by the horn and running with it. As I stated in a number of comments, if you strike with the same force as the wayward spouse and the affair, the shock they get when served papers is earth-shattering and pales in comparison to the betrayal they perpetrated. As with the BS reaction to the affair, the wayward spouse never saw it coming and is quickly released from their fog. I hope and pray you have a prosperous life ahead of you and that you will find the most beautiful, full of life, and character to match yours. That believes till death do us part. Good luck, OP. So that is it in the comments. I love reading the comments, and I love it when people have these guys' backs. Because sometimes in these situations, people find anything to give these guys a hard time, but not here. So this is really good. So I'll keep an eye on them. So again, guys, This is so sad. And if you find yourself in a situation like this, seek out professional help, both in terms of the legal advice as well as therapy if it helps you. And you got to be strong, and you got to be prepare, because the deck's stacked against guys. Let's be honest, you're in the family courts, and you got to be prepared to fight fire with fire, and in some cases go full-blown nuclear. So I wish this guy the best, but I'll keep an eye out for any more updates here. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And also, guys, you come across a good story you want me to cover, definitely email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I definitely will when I get the chance. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.